Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Kirby. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. I have my coffee.
Good, good. And I have my bourbon, which I need today. Fighting with websites all day. That was an adventure. But our new website is kind of up. It's got some issues. I know you're helping me find the issues.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah,
So,
I think so. I'm really excited how well it is looking. Although I still am really fighting with it in some cases. But AI is helping me
that's
fix the bugs. I also created a new Facebook search tool. Did you see that in Signal?
no, oh, yes, I did. I briefly saw it. I haven't had a chance to play with it yet, but it looks really cool.
Yeah, as soon as I can, I'll release it to everyone. So if everybody kind of follows, I'll probably release it on LinkedIn first. I probably will find a way to embed it into our site, or else like a offsite tool thing. But we'll see. I think it's going to be really good though.
Cool.
Fix some of the issues some of the other ones have. Okay, anyway, let's talk about what we're going to talk about today: metacultures, subcultures, and OSINT. So we're talking about metacultures and stuff. Sarah, we're talking like from big level
Hmm.
to micro level cultures, right?
Yes, yes, and not just regional or country cultures, but niche community cultures and SME cultures and. Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we did talk a little bit a while back about some internet subcultures, but like this goes a little bit farther than that. So we're gonna
Right.
it broadens out the span of what constitutes a culture as far as we are concerned. Before we get into that, though, I do want to mention that Cardinal, our guest from last week, you can check out Cardinal. There's actually a GitHub collection for him. Let me try and share this or them for the collective. Um, so, share my screen again. And Andrea says, woo. And we say, woo, thank you, Andrea. We appreciate it. Yes. Okay. So we'll add that to the stage. So, GitHub location. So you can go ahead and ask the collective, and they can also ask you some questions as well. It's kind of something really interesting to check out. That link will be in the show notes on YouTube. All right. So, for those of
And
you, Mhm.
yeah, and I was going to say I already did a comment so that when you ask a question to the collective, you're doing it as a comment.
Mhm.
So you put it in it as a comment, and it's important to do just one question at a time.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's kind of the opposite of what the like prompt engineering say. So when you're asking the collective one at a time, when you're asking a AI tool, jam them all together or something. I don't know. That was what Claude told me today to jam them all together. So
and Andrea, feel free to throw anything in chat if you think you want us to add
absolutely,
something on that. Yeah.
absolutely. And I did include the address in chat here. We don't usually do that. We usually keep all of our links to our YouTube description page, but um, just want to make sure that everybody gets that one so we can see how that works out, how the collective responds and that sort of thing. I'm really excited to see Andrea's uh, experiment in action. Anyway, we are going to move on and we're going to start talking about some of the communities. Now, this this first subculture, we did talk about a little bit, I think, when we talked about our subcultures, because this is very much an internet subculture, but still very interesting to see like how we can kind of see these subcultures like in action. And I'm going to play the video here. I'm going to show it to the stage first, right? Okay, so I do want to highlight something that you said before we go to this, and it's going to be in our show notes. OSINT TTPs are used and can and will vary between different cultures. And so, Sarah, we got to like explain to them what TTPs are.
So OSINT tactics, techniques, and procedures will vary between different cultures and subcultures, and how, and from two perspectives. One, the investigator what you would use as far as tactics and techniques would be different between different cultures you're looking at. So if you're looking at like a cryptocurrency culture, you're going to be using different tooling and maybe different techniques. If you're looking at, an ideological culture, same thing, it would be different. And on the flip side is the actual culture itself. A lot of times will have different ways that they're using research or they're using tactics and techniques. And then sometimes it's the same. So like if it's an adversarial group, a lot of times they'll be using the same tactics and techniques that a blue team would be using versus a red team. But at the same time, if it's a culturally based adversarial group, maybe they come up with something different that you didn't even think about because it's a different culture.
Right. And they may know what to look for when we don't necessarily even know what we're looking for. As far as that goes, they can hone in on it quicker. We may have to learn about it first. And, or again, our missions are like not aligned. They are, the culture is looking for something and we are looking for this kind of intel for our customers.
Right. And it's always important to look at, the not just the lingo or the language that is being used, but also to look at how things are perceived, because that can also change how things are done or how people think.
Absolutely. All right, let's watch a little bit about this video, The Secret World of Incels.
Mm-hmm.
And
what matters. People are trapped in their own ideologies and they're stuck in their own information silos.
The Black Pill is an increasingly mainstream conspiracy theory that was the starting point for D and a lot of incels. It lies to its followers and tells them that only extremely good-looking men have any success with women and life. And if you don't fit that criteria, women will not only ignore you, but they'll fear you. It encourages anyone who doesn't have the right jaw shape or who isn't tall enough to give up. They'll never be the men at the top of the hierarchy, an alpha male. People who incels like D call Chad.
Well, Chad is meant to be like the alpha male. You have the typical like alpha, beta male, and then.
All right. So like within their own subculture, they have their own beliefs. Again, this is kind of ideological. And so one of the things, and I think one of the things to pay attention to is the strategies that they use to either combat it or lock themselves off from these type of challenges, I guess, like they lock themselves off and like swear off even trying to date.
Mm-hmm.
Or they try to challenge it to try to make themselves look better, like looks maxing is one of the things. And then some of them have decided that they can't look like the male Chad, so they decide they want to look like the female, and they do trans maxing instead. And it's very like interesting subculture for sure. And so what we would think to go look for it, you might be surprised at like the different aspects that it has branched into.
Mm-hmm. I found, and then I found one of the useful, the reason, and I pulled this example was one of the useful things is to look for a subculture with their own language. So, so he used the word Chad in there and alpha male, and then there's throughout the video, there's other terms that are unique to that subculture. So if you're looking for that subculture online, you would want to do queries with those terms versus other terms. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Andrea wants to know, would we say that these are voluntary incels? I'd say that these are like the incel, the in part is the involuntary. At some point when they lock themselves off and they say like no more women or whatever, at that point maybe they're voluntary. And I know there are some, I think it's like men going their own way or something like that, where they call it when they decide that they're not even going to try to date anymore. But for the most part, the in indicates that they are involuntary. All right, so then another question we have from Fraud Tribe. Do you think that there's a culture like this that is impacting teenagers? Oh, yeah. This specific culture is impacting teenagers for sure.
Yeah. I did notice when I was looking at this subculture, I did notice that there were some forums that had teenagers in the forums. So there was teenagers in some of the incel forums. So it's absolutely impacting teenagers. Yes.
And they're recruiting. I mean, they like not purposely maybe recruiting, but they are recruiting people to join, and the young ones they'll teach kind of thing, right? It kind of makes me think of like the 764 stuff we had from the subculture episode that we did a while back. No, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got another one that's kind of related to this. So this is actually, I think, the biggest forum out there for this stuff right now, for that specific subculture. And Sarah, you picked a specific post on this forum. So the forum is incel.is. And then we also have a question from Fraud Tribe. Is there any educational information you can provide to parents to be aware of this and to teach and protect their children? You know, we were looking at more on the point of view of the investigator finding out, you know, like looking which ones are becoming extremists. I know that there's material out there to help protect children. Let me do a quick search. What do you think, Sarah? Sarah has.
I'm not sure what specifically is out there on incel culture to teach children about, but I do think it is an important topic to talk to kids about, to teach them, you know, or tell them about, just like you would have a conversation with your teens or tweens about sextortion. But I haven't seen an actual publication on this specific topic for tweens and teens. I do think it's important, though, to talk to him about it and explain why it's of concern, and that it's based on conspiracy theories, and that, you know, it's based on breaking down people's self-esteem and their self-image. And I also think that there's organizations like there's the digital rights for the child organization out of the UK, and some other organizations that might have an interest in this topic as well.
Yeah. So, and Fraud Tribe mentions that he thinks you need someone to talk to me more about it. Well, I will give you, I brought a couple of links up. So I'm going to let Sarah talk about this specific part of the forum. But I think that I have 2 resources, and I know a person who is probably the best person to follow about this kind of stuff, especially dealing with sextortion. So
Yeah.
we can talk about that. I'm going to bring the other one up. So if you don't mind, like what this post was.
Okay, I'm sorry. So the reason I pulled this part of the forum was just showing that it was recent posts. These are October 2025 posts on this incel forum, and it's essentially a thread on rage fuel. Like, what are the things that would make you upset or angry or disappointed with what's going on around you? So it's kind of feeding depression or anger, and there were what appeared to be some teens also in this forum.
Yeah, so let me show you the resources that I just quickly looked for, and to be quite honest, maybe we would need to do like another episode sometime, Sarah, about specifically protecting children. But let me kind of show you some.
I'd love to.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be a good one. So the first one I want to show you is called the it's Internet Matters. It's about radicalization, facts, and advice. And Fraud Tribe said that he would bring the kid to that. So we'll make sure that we do a ones based on kids and radicalization and how they can recognize it themselves as well, for sure. We'll add that in there. And
I would love to do that. That's when
can you put a note about that in the next episode?
Yes.
The notebook that we have for it? Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, we have the first one, which is the Internet Matters one. I'm going to give you the link directly here, and I will try to remember to put it in the document for us to share as well. And then the next one I wanted to show you right after that is, let's see, remove that one. I'm sorry. Okay, then I'm going to add another one that's about educate against hate. So, okay, this is like a question answer one. And the question is, how can I protect my child from extremist influences? And specifically, we're talking about online. It could be any type of extremist influences online. So we're going to kind of, I'll share this one with you as well. And thank you so much, Fraud Tribe. She says our insights always so invaluable. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, so there's, I put in the chat, the Education Against Hate. And then the last thing that I want to share with you about this topic specifically before we move on about the cultures is a person who is really like the person I think right now to talk to about this, and even just follow him on LinkedIn or follow him on, he's doing a lot right now. He's all over the place. And the person's name is Paul Raphael. And so let me show you his LinkedIn page and I will give it to you in the chat. This is the person, just go follow him on LinkedIn, if anything else. And he's the one who's really working, especially the child sexploitation stuff, where you have people like young people within a day of being attacked by these scammers, doing something to themselves.
And
so,
I just, sorry,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say to Fraud Tribe, I think it's, you brought up some really good points in your comments, and it's really important for to look at tweens and teens specifically for recruitment into adversarial or negative niche communities. So like Samir Khan, before he became a member of Al-Qaeda, he became indoctrinated from a lot of his online activities, and he was a teenager and sitting in his parents' basement, about 16 years old, when he made his first in the United States, when he made his first threat against Congressperson. So, I mean that actually, it doesn't matter if it's an extremist incel community or a terrorist community or a hate community. Tweens and teens are definitely targeted. So.
Absolutely. And I think that one thing that you'll miss out too is that they're also targeted on games like Roblox and things like this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I do. Okay. So Fraud Tribe says, I see a future course being created in identifying this, ladies. You know what? I have a course in the making right now about internet subculture identifying and, but it's coming from the investigator point of view, but maybe I should add a module about the parents' point of view on that as well. So keep an eye out for that. That one's getting very close to being done. I know Sarah's got a dark web one that's getting close to being done as far as courses. Okay. All right. So one more thing about the incel culture that I'm going to share for you. So let me remove Paul's LinkedIn page again. And I'm going to bring in one more page, something that we have for you. And that is, kind of click on it, make sure it gets up here. Okay, there we go. And that is the our knowledge base. We've got pages on our knowledge base that is really is very focused on different parts of the web. And basically what we do with this is we identify what kind of category it's in, some niche communities, and Sarah's been really filling up the niche communities. Source countries, if we know where that's at, and we might do a little bit more work to figure out where this one's at. There's a number that we have unknown at the moment. And then going through here, we identify, what it does, if it has any controversies. I mean, the whole idea of this one is a controversy, I think, but then on some references as well. So the question was, do we have a Start Me page? We do not have a Start Me page. This is kind of like instead of a Start Me page, we've got this knowledge base. So for example, if you're on our knowledge base, you can click to the main page of it. And it's kind of got, the new stuff that's coming through, how to use the knowledge base. If you scroll down, you'll see the stuff that has been just recently added to the knowledge base. You've got the whole section of all. And at this point, you can jump into the categories. You can actually filter. Say I want to filter for niche categories. I can go to category, and I might say niche and jump into that. And so now I can kind of see some of the stuff with the niche categories and see what else is in there. And as well as, there's really a lot in there. Sarah's our knowledge base leader. She's our knowledge leader, period. And so she's got a lot of stuff in this knowledge base, and there's a lot of ways that you can actually filter through all this stuff as well. So
I haven't counted recently, but we might have hit already 2,000.
Yeah, and we can kind of check that. Okay, here's a secret for the people who are in this, watching us here or watching us on YouTube. If you come to our knowledge base, we do have a thing that you can do that we don't tell everybody about. Down at the bottom, it's got actual access to the database, and you can set it all in a list and or as a table, and the table should have some names on or some numbers on it, ID numbers, and we can just go from the ID number. Let's go to the sort, and we'll sort it by ID numbers. Let's see, where am I at? I'm not seeing ID number in here. Oh, there it is. Duh. All right. And so I'm going to sort it the other way from the ID numbers. Let's go to descending. All right. So
No,
right now it says 1290. I feel like there's more than that in there, but we'll see.
Okay. Yeah.
And fraud tribe's been lost in the world of KYC, the know your customer. Yeah, we have just advertised that pretty recently as well, where we had our know your customer presentations that are out there. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that one for a moment, and we're going to kind of shift gear away from the incels at the moment, and we're going to jump into some of the a different kind of a niche, right? The matchmaking and dating niche. All right, the first one is kind of an attack on that. So let's see. All right, there we go. An app called T, and I imagine that's to find somebody to have tea with. I don't know. No, I guess it's a dating. It's a U.S. dating safe. Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, it is about tea, because it's about spilling the tea on bad actors or bad people who you date and they're horrible.
Well, it was created for women to be able to have a safe space to discuss safety and dating, things like that. And then what happened though is I mean, yes, part of it is spilling the tea. It got targeted by the incel community. So you have this female subculture that was attacked by the incel culture. So it was a war of cultures. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I know you can see that first line on here. It's not great, but it says, this is the beginning of the thread that they had posted when they hacked it. Driver's license and face pics. Driver's license is meaning verifying that these women are who they say they are, right? And they're saying, get the heck in here before they shut it down. And then, so.
They really went after the women, and they doxed them. So, yeah.
Anybody sharing information about men in there. So that the thing, there's a danger online, especially anywhere where you have to give your real identity. And that's like something like using an email address or using a phone number to verify your identity, things like that, where there's an actual danger if that, not necessarily the website itself, because maybe the website owners are like, yes, they mean to, they're trying to do something good, they're trying to do whatever, but being attacked from something else and breached, and you have no control over the breaches. And so I hesitate before putting an ID photo or even using like my real email address if I'm worried about that address being tied to something like this, for example, where they could come back and figure out who you are, and maybe there's an ideological anti whatever you're doing. So yeah. Yep. All right, let's try out the here's another. We're talking about dating now. Mm-hmm. And now we've got an actual dating service. So Andrea says, was there doxing activity in T? Yes. Yeah, I would say that there was doxing, not only of the people who got hacked, but like the people who were in the app T, doxing the men who they considered bad dates.
Yeah.
And some of these men probably did, and some probably did not.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think they changed their rules a little bit after that occurred.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
So this is just the reason this is included in culture is some cultures are now using matchmaking sites versus just dating sites where they do a profile of the person to see if they're compatible with somebody else. And this one is popular for Western cultures. So this one is UK, US. And you should be aware that these cultures exist, because it's another venue also for investigations if you're an OSINT practitioner.
Mhm.
But in real life, it shows how OSINT is being used for matchmaking, because the people that are engaged in this activity are providing PII, which is being used to match them with somebody else who's also providing PII.
I would also say that the people who trained this are saying these are compatible. Like, even though they're not exactly the same, they may be training using OSINT about what's compatible for a match.
They could be, yeah. That's a good point.
Okay. We have another. Okay, this is an interesting one, and I'm just going to share it first in the native Arabic, and then I'll switch it over. But it is a post that was noted on LinkedIn, and it's from a cybersecurity and OSINT expert who's an Arab speaker. And so you can see that, oh, wait, you can't see anything, can you? Now you can see that, there we go. It's all in Arabic, right? But we're going to go down here and let this translate. But you can see already this graphic, OSINT for marriage. In different cultures where marriage might be more, it's not like just necessarily looking at the criminal, background or whatever, so that the person likes each other, but evaluating the families, evaluating the family history for arranged marriages.
And this is really this is a really interesting post, because it's showing a shift in culture. So it's showing how technology or emerging technologies have been shifting a culture in the way that they are doing their matchmaking for marriage, or the things to check. I thought the points that were in this post were very interesting. If you scroll down, so the first
one, different than TTPs, this is what they're looking for, but it's like, yeah, their points are great.
Right. So the first one is to look at the social media of both parties to see if there is a compatibility of values. The second is to look at understanding the lifestyle and promoting responsibility, like that could apply to how somebody is even using social media. And then I liked how he included a section on balancing technology with ethics, and that he discussed ethics, because that's really important. But I thought that this was a really well done post, looking at how open source intelligence is most definitively impacting real life as it relates to marriage. And in this instance, the author of this post is based in Kuwait.
Mm-hmm. So, yes, yeah. And we both spent time in Kuwait. I believe you have you?
Yeah, I lived there.
Yeah, you spent more time in Kuwait than I did. I spent like 6 months in Kuwait at one point, and you spent a couple of years there, right?
A year and a half.
And like the thing also I wanted to highlight is this was the start of today's topic. This post,
yeah.
We're like, wait, this just shows like a little different way to look at OSINT, a different way to use it, the different TTPs, right?
Right. And I mean, now obviously the traditional things are still thrown in there. So if you're doing like a OSINT look at the culture, like through a cultural lens, you would want to look at the traditional activities that are done. Also, for example, the mom of the son has a very important role in helping, to meet the lady that that the man would be marrying. But this just shows that technology has added to the repertoire of what would be utilized for matchmaking.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right. And then continuing with this about marriage and etc. So let's go ahead and add another. So question is it permissible to use social media to seek marriage? Mm-hmm. Yes, I imagine so, right?
Yeah.
I think the last post just taught us that, but I think this post also kind of like brings, and again, this is coming from the Arabic point of view. Can you see in the answer? But
this one is specifically from a Muslim point of view. But the thing is when you're doing cultural studies, is to check and see, like is it the same or similar thing in India, or you could have the Western one that we just showed, now people are starting to look at social media analysis for Western matchmaking. But it's showing that matchmakers are using OSINT in IRL. And on the flip side, if you're investigating that region or that area, that would be something you would want to be aware of. Or in this case, it's a religious perspective.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Going to take into, like, what depends on where your investigation goes. It doesn't even need to leave the US if you're based in the US, where you have to start thinking about the culture of the population that you're doing an investigation on. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Or whatever else TTPs you're looking for.
Yep.
All right. Now, speaking of using social media, we talked about this really briefly before too in another episode, but when we're talking about social media, you also have to worry about your employer, whether they just decide not to hire you or if they decide to fire you.
Right. And this deals with a shift in corporate culture. So corporations or big corporations are starting to rely more heavily on social media screening for hiring people. And then recently in the United States, you've seen a lot of instances over the last, I would say, 5 years of people being fired for their social media posts. So
because they embarrassed the company or something like that.
Right. Because they embarrassed the company, or there was even instances where some students didn't get their scholarships a few years ago because they posted something that was racist. And so the university said, no, we don't want to give you a scholarship. And I'm sorry, I keep saying, but it's becoming increasingly common for institutions or the culture of institutions and the culture of corporations to include media screening for hiring, firing, or for making decisions. Yeah. So.
And we're going to specifically get into a couple of really specific cases coming in here. So before we do that, though, let's talk about like how easy it is to do this. And there's plenty of people who are willing to help you out.
Yeah. I love this tool. I tested it during COVID on some very well-known political actors because they didn't have a right to privacy. Everything that they had was pretty much out there. And so when I tested this tool, I picked on people that didn't have an expectation of privacy because I was trying to be ethical. And in doing so, it gave very nice visualization of what you would want to hire that politician or fire that politician. And I looked up, from different parties. I didn't, I didn't look at one party. And this for doing one run at that point, I think was about $15. So if you're a big corporation and you are trying to vet whether or not somebody is going to fit your brand or fit your platform of what you're trying to promote, $15 for a report. Ferretly is an excellent one to do. It shows a pie chart with the positive sentiment that person posts on social media, the negative sentiment that person posts on social media, and you can really look at how that person fits the branding of your company. So it's an example of how, and this is, I'd say one of the bigger tools, but this is what corporate cultures are starting to use and incorporate when they're looking at who they want to have working for them or to even maybe partner with. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can also sort of a threat intelligence module.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Ferretly, what Ferretly has as far as software, theoretically, the way that they have it could also be used for threat intelligence for threat actors if it was not Ferretly, but the same. Well, I don't know. I guess
Depends on who you're looking at.
Yeah, it depends on who you're looking at. But
Like
it
lone
does.
wolf actors, this would definitely be something.
Oh yeah. This would definitely
And due
be
diligence,
used yeah, and it does show high risk actors. Like Ferretly would show if somebody is high risk, and so I mean it's a really good tool.
All right, let's see what
We should tell Ferretly that we've now discussed them twice.
yeah. I used to actually have the little Ferretly thing that would like block your camera, but
I like
it ends up not letting your computer shut close completely, and so I kind of.
They have these little plushy ferrets. They're adorable.
Yeah. And Fraud Tribe says that tool would be good to monitor breach data and active organizations.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You can always think of like a million uses for a lot of these tools. All right, let's talk about foreign languages. Okay, so let's go to AI hallucination in foreign languages.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to play this.
And when we show that actually, hey, yeah, models do hallucinate. And even more so do they hallucinate in foreign languages, right?
Yeah.
Statistics show that the training data, unless it's a purpose-built translation model for a specific language, training data is 70% English. So when it comes to hallucinations, the model is pretty much guaranteed to hallucinate in a foreign language at some point in time.
All right, a link so you can watch the other half of this one. But yeah, hallucination. All right, so now if we think of the cultures, we think of the different language cultures, and we end up thinking about, how training data is mostly English, and a lot of the AI tools are built in the English-speaking world. There's some that aren't. For example, that we know that we have that DeepSeek coming from China and some other things like that. But it's dominated right now with English-speaking tools. And so how good is it at other languages?
And there's not a lot of indigenous large LLMs outside of English.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a good point. Andrea said hallucinate with disassociate, and I think that's an excellent way to couch it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, I mean, your large LLMs that are relying heavily on English are providing a perfect example of Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. So if you do like a query on poets in some of them, the primary response will be English poets or Western poets. They're not going to be throwing in famous Arabic poets. So I think it's important when you're utilizing LLMs to see what is the cultural background of the LLM that you're using.
So I have a good example of this that I just found out about yesterday. My mom watches, and she was saying that she was using AI to try and figure out what the Japanese were thinking about the opinion of how Trump and the Japanese PM kind of interacted. And she wanted to know what they were thinking about it. And she said the AI didn't give her good information. I said, well, really, it's going to have to do with prompts, because you're going to have to tell it to get Japanese sources, and then what type of sources you want in Japanese and that sort of thing. Because it's just going to find US sources and say, oh, they're not thinking about it at all, when you know that they are thinking about it in some way.
And that it's definitely one risk mitigation measure is to try and to decrease the algorithmic bias in your prompts as it relates to culture. At the same time, though, it's still imperfect in the sense that there's still a limitation in the information that they've pulled in the
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to be able to actually go out and grab new data in some cases, and some of them do not do that at all. And especially even ChatGPT will grab some data, but if you're using a pre-created GPT, they absolutely will not grab new data. And so it really depends how you're using it, and even within each tool.
Right.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's knock this one down, and let's talk about kind of the same sort of thing, homogenization, right? Bias toward a certain type. So let's get that one shared.
This I thought was fascinating. It's a long video, so I recommend watching it, at your leisure. But this was
we're just going to watch a few seconds of it.
Yeah.
Research from 2024 and 2025 reveals something far more unsettling. These systems achieve their engagement targets not by celebrating our differences, but by nudging nudging all of us toward the same narrow aesthetic and narrative clusters. They're creating what researchers call a collapse of interuser variety. The differences between what you see and what I see, they're shrinking, even as our individual feeds feel endlessly varied.
All right, well, what's up?
Here's where it gets fascinating and disturbing.
That was going to bug me if I didn't let it finish coming in. But yeah, where it sometimes just on the data that they're trained on, just on that, an opinion is made, and that is like, okay, this is a bucket, it's a categorization bucket. Where, I mean, as humans, we love to categorize as well, but sometimes we are forced to adjust our categorizations just by reality, you know? And so I think that's something we need to do for AI as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And most of the large AI models, they have some of the same categorization. So there isn't a wide discrepancy or wide difference in opinion in some of them. And some of them, and you have a whole cluster that are also more English based. So you do start getting a similar response. I find it interesting to utilize more than one LLM on queries just to see the similarities and differences. And some
I think that's so important because the bias does not only exist with the material; they could be trained on the same material, but rather by the attitude of the ownership and the tech, the people who are training it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They're all going to have some sort of bias. We're thinking like right now, Western bias is what we're kind of talking about, and like our cultural bias. But even amongst them, there's even other differences.
Yep.
It's worthwhile to check multiple at a time. Okay, let's go to the next video. Okay, and this one's more about retail recommendations.
Yes. I thought this one was very interesting too.
Sarah is a master at finding stuff for us to talk about as far as like talking to each point. So, all right, here we go. So we are going to play for just a few seconds, about 15 seconds. Oops, I'm clicking it on the screen with us.
For example, if most purchase data comes from one gender or one cultural group, the AI might mainly suggest products for that group. This means people outside that group might not see items that suit their tastes or needs. It can lead to a narrow range of options, making customers feel ignored or misunderstood. Many shoppers, especially.
So I have a perfect example for this. I know, Sarah, you have a lot of stuff to talk about with this, but I know that like there was a point where makeup was very rarely made for people outside of a certain range of colors. And I'm talking about foundations, and I, of course, I'm lucky enough that it fit mine, but there's a lot of people who it did not fit. And so I think now there's a lot more range, but it's definitely something very interesting. So.
No, I think that's a good example. I also think this that really applies to food too. Different cultures like different foods, and if you're basing your marketing in an LLM toward one demographic or one cultural demographic, it's going to be leaving out food suggestions for other demographics. And there is currently kind of a push on one demographic being the stereotype of what a consumer would be, and then sometimes leaving out those other demographics. So it is a good example of how bias can be used or exists in some of the LLMs as it relates to retail and shopping recommendations.
Yeah, it really doesn't serve anybody in this case, because even the person who wants to like base ads based on this sort of thing, they may not be seeing somewhere the bias might actually give them a little bit of a chance to, maybe pivot a little bit and allow more people in.
If I'm in Cambodia and I'm using an LLM for grocery shopping, what I would want to buy would be completely different than if I'm sitting in Texas.
So even two people in Texas might have completely different.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Now we're going to fix onto something else as far as a completely different culture. And this would we kind of have like a little intro to doxing and OSINT in culture. So there is, and this is something that I think is like expanded across cultures, is the idea of doxing people when you're upset with them or something like that. And I think that it's not healthy. But what's the difference between doxing and OSINT?
Well, a part of the difference between doxing and, well, there's two big differences. First is doxing includes OSINT most of the time, but it can also include other things like malware or viruses or things that are beyond OSINT. And then the second thing is doxing is a deliberate act where you publish the information. So there's an, yes, there's an intent, as Andre Noyes said. So I think that's, the kind of the difference between OSINT and doxing. And then also the other thing is the legality of what you're doing as well, because many places doxing is illegal.
Mm-hmm. And so let's talk about like a really specific doxing website that was out there in the past. And so this is a example of a page off of Have It Been Pwned. And if you haven't seen Have It Been Pwned, you need to go explore the whole thing. But they're talking about Doxbin.
Yep.
And Doxbin was actually breached. So that means Doxbin, the people who are doxing people on Doxbin, it depends on how Doxbin collected the data about who's doxing. This is getting very meta. But that information is now out even further. So Doxbin existed on the dark web. I don't think that they had a regular website, did they? It was just Doc.
I don't know.
We'll see in a moment because we'll take a look at the page about them. But anyway, so somebody breached them, and so that information is now out further. And Doxbin, as far as what it was as far as a website, is when you specifically are mad, or not even necessarily mad, but you just want to dox a certain person, you can put all their information. And it was just a place that cataloged people who had been fully doxed, and you could go through and search people's names and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's kind of notorious. Let me show you the page about it. Sarah, I don't know if you have anything to say further on this one.
I just wanted to say that this is like a major major topic on, or resource on doxing, but doxing has become very cultural in the way that it's being used, and that's one of the reasons.
And in our culture specifically too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I would imply
we're a little bit slower than some of the others, though.
Huh?
We're a little slower as far as the culture of doxing than some of the other cultures that are out there, which we're professional. So here's a Wikipedia page about Doxbin and the dark web.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to learn a little bit more about it, again, this link will be in our YouTube show notes. All right, so then if we continue on with the idea of doxing, again, culturally, some of the more extreme cultures having to do with this, and I don't necessarily mean they're more extreme than us, because if you remember our subculture episode a few episodes back where we talked about 764 and that sort of thing, doxing is a very common experience for them. But here's some really kind of some extreme examples. So first one, called Dox OSINT, is the actual name of the video or the YouTube channel. Yeah.
And this is there is a culture on YouTube of Russian doxers that are like a cluster, and they all post up tools for doxing. Some of them are OSINT tools, and some of them are actual like malware or more intrusive. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
more intrusive kind of tools.
I'll flip up a couple other ones while you're talking. Keep going.
So I thought it was interesting to see that this Russian culture of doxing was using YouTube in addition to other venues for their activities. Now, some of these are probably teens and tweens. Some of these are, script kiddies, and then some of these are more, probably hardcore, yeah, like professional actors. So it was, and I couldn't include all of the Russian dox accounts or Russian doxing actors that are on YouTube because there was many, yeah, but we wanted to throw in a few examples.
Yeah, and something that I wanted to highlight about this is that in Russia, YouTube is not so easy to get to.
Yeah. Oh, that's
these guys
true.
are smart enough to get to it. So, and that just shows that you can, you want to.
And the other thing I thought about it that was interesting about this is they're sharing tools, as a culture, a subculture.
Oh,
They're like,
yeah.
hey, look, I have this cool tool I made, for doxing. Please, come use my tool. So
we're going to play the beginning of this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just kind of shows that like the little branding even.
Yeah, they have branding, and they're trying to make them look cool and hip, and that doxing, culturally, doxing is a cool, hip thing to do, as far as a Russian subculture on YouTube. So, yeah.
They weren't the only subculture that really hit doxing before the Western subcultures did. So let's share a screen on an example of, and to be honest, my first time hearing of doxing was not having to do with China. It had to do with Korea. Okay, Andrea has something here. So she says FNet was huge for carding and doxing back in the day. And so that was one of the ones that we had shown. But yeah, so like one of the first things I remember is the girl, this is way back when, maybe I'll try and search for it, but I think it was something like where a girl had let her small dog poo on the subway and they doxed her and posted her all over social media in Korea. That was I think the first time I realized that, whoa, the shame culture is crazy. But then there's this China one where it's actually the government creating social media posts and possibly doing doxing and kind of like policing the Chinese internet.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was interesting that that they incorporated doxing from in a government level, and now they've kind of gone full circle and said, oh, we don't want our people to dox.
Right, so which is coming up in another one here. Let's go to the next one. Well, first of all, we got more doxing happening in China before we talk about where they said stop doxing, right? So here's another one.
Yeah.
I think that it depends on like what's going on, but I think that is something that even like comes to the United States as well. Somebody doesn't like what you're doing. They might be your friend or might be your frenemy, and then they dox you to their friends. I think that's something. So Fraudulent Tribe says there are current bills that are scary. Oh, there are some current bills in the United States that are scary as well. And Canada, she says Canada's heading that way. Yeah, and Australia, I think as well, as far as like not allowing doxing. And so the question is like, when's it too much? I mean, we have laws against harassing and stalking. I think that's going to be the the thing. And I'm laughing because I called her fraud tribe. Sorry. I read what I read. Okay, so let's talk about China saying zero tolerance about this doxing culture that they had. So again, the government's pushing regulators and social media sites to get tough on this, to kind of stop this doxing culture.
Well, because it was becoming too. I mean, it was just becoming all the time. We're not all the time, but a lot. I think it's interesting to see how the difference in cultures on what is considered to be doxing and what is considered to be private information. I'm sitting in the EU right now, and some of the doxing that you see in the United States would be very illegal to do where I'm sitting now. So and I think with China, I wonder if it's going to be more, internally you are not allowed to dox, but externally you can dox. I wonder if it's going to end up like that. Maybe, who knows? But yeah.
And I do want to compare it against the fight to get legal issues for stalking that happened. Like I think that was in the 1990s where that kind of really came to a point. Like that this has to be defined. It has to define when it's information and when it's harassment.
Right.
Yeah. So I did find the information about the girl from Korea the very first time that I saw anything having to do with doxing. So I do want to share that. Let's see. And she is even called the dog poop girl. And so this happened in 2005. This is the first time I really noticed serious doxing. And so really do you remember this, Sarah?
The first time I noticed doxing was actually in 2002, and it was Al-Qaeda, and they doxed a researcher who was researching Al-Qaeda. And so they put up his first name, last name, his home address, his parents' address, where he worked, and they posted it online. So I mean, I think the way doxing has been used has changed so much over time. I do think that there's cultural differences in how doxing is being used, but I would also say, like with what Kirby has brought up with the dog poop girl, is like there has been a shift from one culture to another on the acceptance of doxing. So, like in 2005, in South Korea, you had this incident, and then you've had a whole slew of doxing incidents in the States on YouTube on people on planes, on airplanes.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this person.
So yeah, like
the
difference between this and the Al-Qaeda one was like more like an operation maybe, and this is more like just social. And so the airplane one's also very social. Like people are like, look at these people being idiots on my flight.
Right. Yeah. And I think you're also seeing a lot more, although like you showed the 2017 influence campaign being done by China, which included doxing. You're also seeing now doxing being utilized in wartime. So Ukraine and Russia, which we didn't throw an example in there, but Ukraine and Russia both have used doxing with what's going on right now. So I think that being familiar with how a country looks at doxing and how people are utilizing doxing is very important for investigations. And then also it provides, from an OSINT in real life perception, what is being utilized in the doxing. Yeah.
Shift gear a little bit to gaming subculture and doxing. So for example, I'll play this video.
I thought this was fascinating. Yeah.
All right. Squad Tribe is leaving us. She says that she's got to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming. Please come again.
So this was IP doxing on Roblox. So one of the things they had to do though to do this is to get the person to give them their username and password, which
right. So this was
for $50 or whatever.
Yeah. So it's social engineering combined with doxing. What I thought was really crazy was when I was looking on YouTube is that there were so many gamers doxing.
Oh, I think that's very cultural for them. Yes.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where like even the swatting started and things like that, is basically them like in battles against each other in gaming, maybe going beyond the game, not even having to do with the game. But then they like decide, okay, I really dislike this person. I'm going to dox them. Well, now that I know where they are, what am I going to do with that? And so that's where things kind of blow up from there. Yeah. Well, let's try another one. Let's see what we got here. All right. So this is another gamer doxing one.
And Kirby, just so you know, we're on 12:59.
Oh, we are.
Yeah.
Well, we might go through these ones and then, so we'll show this one last, and then we'll go to our slap of the day.
The slap of the day. and then we'll have to do the rest the next time.
Yep. The rest will get bumped to next time. But anyway, here's I Shall Speed gets doxxed on Steam. So he's getting doxxed while he's live streaming.
161.7.13.185. You go to Oakland Elementary at Claremont Avenue, Cambridge, 43641. Any Whopper my way. You roll your season today and BK having your way.
Why did Burger King just dox me? That's my old address anyways. What the fuck? Just when Burger King doxing people.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I thought this was a really good...
It is funny. It is funny. I'm going to admit that too.
I thought it was interesting. This was just, it showed doxing and gaming and Twitch culture.
And some serious creativity.
Yeah. So that's why this one was included.
Yeah.
So in any case, there is a culture of doxing in some gaming communities, which I thought was, I didn't know that, but now I do. So
and now, yeah. All right, we're AI slop of the day, and then we'll kind of see what film that we left behind that it might end up showing up in the next one.
Next week, because we're out of time. Yeah.
Exactly. We're running out of time, but our slop of the day.
Yes.
All right. So I don't know if anybody remembers Joe Cartoon, but that's what this immediately made me think of. Joe Cartoon.
The reason I pulled this one is I just, as far as AI slop is concerned, really, is that this whole account on YouTube, not the whole account. I shouldn't say the whole account because I didn't watch every single video and I'm not going to. But a whole bunch of the videos all centered on a mom cooking or making food with her phone and ignoring her child. So the kitten gets baked, or the kitten gets in stew, or the kitten gets, yeah. And it's all AI generated. And it has lots and lots of views. So there must be people that enjoy watching all of these.
Well, there was a huge crowd for Joe Cartoon back in the day. So, and Sarah doesn't know Joe Cartoon, but I'll tell you what, when I was in the Army, Joe Cartoon was very popular in the Army. So, Andrea says, Maurice Sendak, 2025. Gonna have to Google that.
I'm gonna have to Google that now and write that down. Maurice Sendak.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you so much. Thanks for everybody who is here live and talking to us. And this will be on YouTube very soon. And thanks to everybody who's on YouTube. Hopefully you'll subscribe. This will be live on YouTube very soon. So soon that we'll switch to live feeds on YouTube as well.
And please tune in next week.
Yep. See you next week.
All right. Good night.
Bye, everyone.